just a war.
Okay, Mark, how you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. I watched Ambush on Tuesday, as a matter of fact, and I gotta say, man, I love a good war movie, and this was really good. I love the
Oh,
performances
that's
and the
awesome to
acting.
hear. Thank you. Thank
So
you
my
so much.
so my first question is, how did you come up with the story?
If I can just give a little background, I started my film company is called Dark Mark Productions, and I started it approximately 5 years ago to make one type of picture because a lot of companies just do, they'll do everything from a horror to a rom-com, and it's what I call I don't see movies being made like this as the dramatic action picture. I grew up cognizant of watching movies in the late 60s to 70s, and those films had the biggest impression. And of those films that had the biggest impressions were these films like Papillon and Deliverance and French Connection and Wild Bunch and Sorcerer, that the good guy or the anti-hero loses or dies at the ending. And they go through this extreme circumstance. So I make these movies about extreme men in extreme circumstances. And taking that, I have a love of history, and especially history and warfare. I was doing reading, and I said, there's only been one movie about the tunnel rats, and that was an Uwe Boll horror film about 16 years ago. But there hasn't been a serious take on the story. And so I said, let's put it, previous to the tunnel rats, about what would be the first wave of military that would go into the tunnels and engage the enemy with absolutely zero, experience or knowledge of really what's happening. And that's how all these things came together.
That's amazing, and I love a good Vietnam War flick. I mean, there's so many good ones, like Full Metal Jacket comes to mind.
Hamburger Hill's a good one that got lost in the bunch when those all came out in the 80s.
Yeah, and I feel like this is like the new one now, because I feel like,
Thank you
as you
so
mentioned,
much.
because of your story. I mean, you're all right. These guys are totally green. Here they are in a small outpost, and all of a sudden, they get attacked out of nowhere, and it's like they have to figure out what's the next plan of action.
And they're not even combat soldiers; they're CBs. So
yeah,
that adds to the layer. I mean, they're ditch diggers, and I always love movies. There was a great movie in the 90s, Danny Boyle's first, called Shallow Grave.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you've ever seen it. And it's basically three roommates who, when a bunch of illegal money is found that belongs to the mafia, it all changes their personalities with this inducement of stress, the circumstances of it. And you see that happen to some of the soldiers in this when they get into the
Oh,
tunnels.
exactly. And I gotta say, I feel like Connor Paolo is like the real lead of the film, because he's the one who's
He's
like,
great.
yeah, he was fantastic in my opinion. I've only seen him in
Great
the
actor.
movie, but I feel like he took lead on here, even though you had Jonathan Rhys Meyers and Aaron Eckhart. But I feel like this is Connor's tour de force. I mean, he did
He's
such
in every scene. I remember,
yeah,
we did him in every shot, and he was on every time, every take, generous, absolutely just a gem. I work with him any day of the week.
that's awesome. What was it like working with Jonathan Rhys Meyers and Aaron Eckhart? I mean, these guys are, in my opinion, like kind of like legends of the millennium. The
They
millennium.
really are. Aaron. I've always admired his work since In the Company of Men. I saw him in the 90s. He's a Golden Globe nominee. He's done theater, big screen, small screen. He has the perfect look for the general, just like on that image behind you. And he plays the role perfectly. He really adapted to it. Jonathan, a Golden Globe winner from the theater, from the big screen, small screen, guy who's worked with the biggest directors of all time, from Woody Allen, Oliver Stone, and on. And they gave me their all. They treated me like a king, and they gave me their all. And they did a phenomenal job.
That's amazing. Were you able to give the actors any, like, their own take on the characters, or you kind of had like a set,
the
like
way
had a
I usually give them like a macro view, and I just really believe in that old adage that, for a director, if he gets the right casting done, 70% of his job is done. I'd say it's more 50%, but really, these actors really blended into their roles well. I give them notes. They would ask me notes and such, but I really like to hear their take first, instead of me just saying, well, this is how you play it, and then mold it from there. And they really got it on early on. I mean, Connor was coming up with these small notes that may not register on screen, whether it be a necklace he's wearing, but absolutely blended into making him feel like that character. And it was the same with Jonathan. And that whole cast, I mean, a lot of these guys are young, but they've been on Broadway, they've been on TV, they've been in movies. Patrick Walker, just started with Julia Roberts and Sean Penn in The Watergate, in Gaslight. These are all, this is the outsiders. These are all guys who are, going to bootstrap their way up.
I think they did a great job. I mean, the chemistry was so natural among them, and that's what drove the film too. If I see an ensemble cast of young people like this, if they gel well together, then it's going to make a great movie,
It's funny you said, Albert, because when we were filming The Jungle, they would live in these beautiful compounds. They didn't want to go to the resort in the city 40 minutes away. So they were like 10 minutes from set, and they'd all live together and party together and barbecue together. And they would come on their day offs to support the other guys. And they really were this tight entity. There was no like backbiting or fighting that you see on some sets or backstab. Everyone got along. And this crew in Colombia I worked with, this is my 30th film, was the best crew I've ever worked with.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. And how long did shooting take, and what challenges did you face during production?
It was an insane schedule. We had 20 days to shoot the war film, and we were shooting 18 days in Colombia and 2 days in Riverside County. And we shot, split it almost equally on the stage and in the jungle. The stage was in Bogota at the Fox Studios, which is now Viacom. And in the jungle, we were about almost 4 hours outside of Bogota in a place called Nilo. And it was literally, it would be pouring rain like you've never seen it. And we'd shoot. And then 5 minutes later, it'd be 100 degrees sunny and 100 degrees humidity. We'd shoot. We shot in everything. It didn't matter what was happening. We shot.
That's
and you had snakes, you had pumas, you had bugs like just everywhere. It was really added to the layer of authenticity. You don't feel like we're shooting at Griffith Park in LA.
That's amazing. I mean, for me, that's dedication. I mean, you guys enduring all that. That is crazy, especially for a 20-day shoot. This is something you'd expect in like more than like months to shoot. Like, but here you are. I know it's a budget, in indie film in the way, but I mean, that's just dedication right there, especially with everything working together.
If you want to hear something crazy, Albert, is that we were delayed because of the pandemic, and a lot of our contracts were going to expire, so we had to get started. And because we're delayed so long, because financiers would pull out, because no one knew what to do with this disease hitting the world, no one in modern day had shot a film in it. They had no idea what to do. And they were there were TV shows getting canceled, and there were still good ratings because they couldn't afford the pandemic. The protocols, they were so expensive. So in the States, and basically we had to prep, shoot, post, and deliver the film in 4 months.
Wow. And
that was crazy. And it came out great. We've got a great movie.
I totally agree. This is a phenomenal movie. I think this is probably
the gods were with us on this one.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best war movies of like the modern day, in my opinion.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So finally, what's next for you after Ambush that you can talk about?
So there's a few films we've got going. I'm directing a film this year called Eye for an Eye, which is a multiverse crime movie. It's kind of like Heat meets 12 Monkeys. And we're going to shoot that in the Amazon in Colombia and in the city, either in LA or Bogota. We're not sure yet. And then I've got a film I'm just producing that will probably go into production the next year and change, called The Devil's Soldier, that Antoine Fuqua is directing and Roger Avery wrote, the Oscar-winning screenwriter.
Nice.
Phenomenal. And then, we're just doing these dramatic action type films. That's going to be our book of business. That's our specialization.
Yeah, definitely. I like that, the balance between the emotional aspect of things and the action. And it definitely worked here, especially with what the story was about. And these young guys, I mean, they did a phenomenal job.
Thank you, Albert. I appreciate that.
So Ambush is coming out on February the 24th. And those who love war films and those who love like emotional action flicks, they're going to want to see this one. And Mark, man, you did a great job with this. And
thank you, Albert. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Thank you again for taking the time to talk about the film.
Thank you. Good talking to you.
Same here. You take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.